So let's have some fun with this cultural analysis essay this week. Let's go to our Unit 4 primary sources and cultural analysis activities for the following week. Here I've included an image of Henrietta Lacks. She's the subject of this investigation, this sort of primary source here. A photograph of this woman, Henrietta Lacks, actually catalyzes or sort of begins Rebecca Skloot's investigation of something called the sort of immortal gene. And so what you're going to be doing this week is, in addition to drafting for the essay too, you're going to do a collaborative reading exercise that thinks through an essay that is very much like a cultural analysis that you'll be writing for your essay number 2. So in the coming weeks, we're going to be reading a variety of different about a variety of different cultural issues. For this week, we're going to be thinking about Rebecca Skloot's The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And this is actually just an excerpt from a larger book that Rebecca Skloot has published. And down here, she talks a little bit about, Rebecca Skloot herself talks a little bit about this larger book, this greater book, and writing practices and how they help, how writing impacts the way that she thinks and investigates this particular issue. The particular issue is both gender, race, and then sort of the scientific impact on both of those. As you begin to read through the scientific essay, it's a very different genre, as you'll notice from our autoethnographies. Please think carefully about the rhetorical situation. As you read through, think about what kind of cultural issue this article takes up. So what is the cultural issue? And what primary source material does she use to begin this investigation? Similar to what you're doing, Rebecca Skloot is using a primary source to begin investigating the cultural issue. What kinds of primary source material does Skloot describe and use? And so by Wednesday, what I'd like you to do within this Google Doc that you can click on right here is to comment specifically, identify specifically one of these rhetorical features that are outlined in this Google document. I want you to comment either on, a motivation for the purpose of this essay, a motivation that this writer used to compose this essay. It can be a comment about the language, the specific kinds of vocabulary imagery she uses in this essay. It can comment upon a particular structure that you see happening. How is it organized? Any patterns in the progression of the argument? The comment can talk about the kinds of evidence or sources that she's using. And consider the tone or voice. Again, you don't need to comment on each of these, but simply consider in detail a thorough answer, a response to one of these particular aspects of rhetorical strategies in her writing. And then one comment in the document can be any kind of reaction or response you have to the text. So feel free to kind of just react and respond how you will. So by Wednesday, I have 2 comments in our shared Google Doc. One that, again, draws from a specific examination within this rhetorical strategy document, and one that's just whatever you sort of feel compelled to write about. And by Friday, please revisit this Google document and respond to just one student comment in depth, encouraging and considering the future implications of some of those observations. So in addition to the collaborative reading exercise this week, the other fun thing that you get to do is contribute to our discussion forum by posting again building on another Unit 4 Google Site portfolio page. This portfolio page is actually going to be harboring your initial draft. And again, I want to work with you on drafting, thinking about the process of writing, not necessarily of just composing and turning something in, but the process of thinking through an idea, maybe shifting or fine-tuning your ideas and getting feedback, integrating that feedback before you turn in a final paper or final project for any class. So Patricia Goodson, who writes from this book called Becoming an Academic Writer, says bad first drafts are required for getting to a good final draft. And so some of you are saying, I get stuck with writing because I just am too nervous or, too much of a perfectionist to write something that is bad. But we do need bad drafts. You need them. They're a fact of your writing life. Just accept the fact and write them, says Patricia Goodson. So this week you get to just write a draft. Again, it does not have to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to be, I want it to have lots of room for improvement. I want there to be room for us to think about how to better and sort of synthesize and sharpen your writing. So please feel free to kind of just open up and start drafting whatever comes to mind, whatever kinds of primary sources you're working with, and sort of uniting that with the cultural issue that may take some time to just narrow down, quite frankly. So I'm giving you this week a different kind of timeline. You have until Friday. There's nothing due in terms of this discussion forum on Wednesday. You have until Friday to post your initial discussion forum link. And so that way you get all week to sort of begin drafting and thinking about your cultural issue from your autoethnography and thinking about what kind of primary source you'd like to pair with that cultural issue. So by Friday, the end of this week, please build out a Unit 4 Cultural Analysis draft Google site page and compose on this actual page. You can copy and paste it, that's fine, from a Word document. Copy and paste it onto your Google site page. Just a 2 to 3 page draft of your cultural analysis essay. Please include a related image to accompany this draft, perhaps a picture of your primary source object if that's applicable. And publish and post the Google site link to this discussion forum here. Again, remember to click right there to post to the discussion forum. Now you have until Wednesday of next week to complete this activity, the drafting activity. You're going to complete a peer review form for 2 of your peers. There should be no more than 2 responses for each student, so be careful to pick someone that, if they haven't received any feedback, choose that student first. No student should have more than 2 pieces of feedback, and what you're going to do is download this document to your computer, select a student in our discussion forum, select a Google site page and draft to provide feedback for. Just a moment while this is opening. And you're going to see this sort of reader-based feedback. And I hope that this is an exciting way for you to respond to students, because it's not actually asking you to say like what's good in the writing and what's bad in the writing. It's really just to allow you to respond to the writing. Reader-based feedback has the advantage of keeping you more in charge of the whole feedback process. Readers get to tell you what they liked and what happened to them, but you can take over from there. You get to decide what their reactions mean and what changes, if any, you want to make. One of the main reasons so many people hate feedback or fail to learn from it is that it makes them feel helpless. Getting feedback has always felt like putting themselves entirely into someone else's power. You don't do that if you use reader-based feedback. So basically there are 4 questions you're answering after you read a draft from 2 of your peers, and you'll fill out a form for each of them. What do you think of the idea? Did the writer directly address the question? How and in what ways is their chosen primary source in conversation with their cultural issue or experience? When reading this piece, what else comes to mind? What do you remember or think about as you hear or read it? And then the final 2 questions, how might the student improve? Do you have any suggestion in terms of another approach, a different angle, a more sophisticated argument, or more evidence or detail? And what sticks in your mind after you finish reading or hearing this? What jumps out to you from this piece? And so again, you're giving a reader response. You're responding to the writing rather than sort of analyzing and evaluating the writing in negative or positive terms. And so I hope you have a great time with this drafting activity. I'm going to be sort of waiting in the wings and kind of reading through these drafts as well and offering you some feedback as you continue. Remember that if you have any questions, to go under the cultural analysis essay folder in Blackboard to revisit this specific prompt and to view the student sample if need be. Remember that the guiding question for this week and for your essay is how and in what ways is your chosen primary source, something that you'll have to find this week, in conversation with your cultural issue or experience. And so again, determining how to sort of synthesize or condense what exactly that cultural issue is that was raised in your autoethnography might take some reflection. So the first steps include narrowing down what kind of cultural issue you'd like to explore and what kind of primary source you'd like to include in your writing. So again, when you are finished with this reader-based feedback and you download it onto your computer, you'll click on your response to your peer under the specific discussion board, and you'll be able to attach that information onto your discussion reply. So thank you so much for listening. I'm looking forward to reading your drafts as they're coming, and to sort of examining the kinds of feedback and ideas you have as you consider Rebecca Skloot's essay, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm looking forward to another great week.